Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mia P. Manansala, author of the debut novel, Arsenic and Adobo. I'll be reading the first chapter. My name is Lila Macapagal, and my life has become a rom-com cliche. Not many romantic comedies feature an Asian American lead, or dead bodies, but more on that later. But all the trademarks are there. Girl from an improbably named small town in the Midwest moves to the big city to make a name for herself and find love. Check. Girl achieves these things, only for the world to come crashing down when she walks in on her fiance getting down and dirty with their next door neighbors. Yes, plural. Double check. Girl then moves back home in disgrace and finds work reinvigorating her aunt's failing business. Well, now we're up to a hat trick of cliches. And to put the cherry on top, in the trope of all tropes, I even reconnected with my high school sweetheart after moving back to town and discovered the true meaning of Christmas. Okay, so that last part is a joke, but I really did run into my high school sweetheart. Derek Winter, my first love. Too bad he'd aged into a ridiculous jerk with a puffed up sense of importance and weird vendetta against my family. Pretty much tried to shut down my aunt's restaurant on a weekly basis. Odd behavior coming from the guy who'd wanted to marry me right after high school, but what can I say? I had exceptionally bad taste when I was younger. You're dumb when you're 15 and hopped up on hormones. Heck, I'm 25 and still make bad decisions based on those same dumb hormones. Hence my working at my Tita Rosie's restaurant rather than running my own cafe, which is what I've been going to school for before I found out Sam was a cheating scumbag. That was right around the time my aunt sent me a distress signal, and here we are. So instead of grinding my own coffee beans or brewing the delightful loose leaf teas I'd sourced for my dream cafe in Chicago, I now spent every morning preparing mugs of Copico 3-in-1 in my hometown of Shady Palms, Illinois, over 2 hours outside the city. The morning clientele at my tita's restaurant always included a bevy of gossiping aunties, none as loud or nosy as the group of 50-something-year-old women I privately referred to as the calendar crew. Their names were April, May, and June. They weren't related, but all three of them were completely interchangeable, down to their bad perms, love of floral patterns, and need to provide running commentary on my life. It was their due. After all, they were my godmothers. Yes, plural. They bore the important title of Ninang and were my late mother's best friends. They loved and cared about me in their own infuriating way. I brought over their morning plate of pandesal, and they descended like a pack of locusts upon the dish of lightly sweetened Filipino bread, spreading the warm rolls with butter and dipping them in their coffee or drizzling them with condensed milk. And like locusts, once they were done devouring one thing, they moved as a pack onto their next victim. Me. Lila, why is everything you wear always dark? You look like a bruja. And your hair always in that ponytail and hat, not sexy. Ay, nako, what is this? You get bigger every time I see you. This last statement, accompanied by a firm pinch of my arm fat, was from Ninang April, who always had to have the final say. April always was the cruelest month. I was used to these digs against my appearance. It was how older Asians showed affection. I could ignore my godmother's first two comments. While being told you looked like a witch would bother most people, I considered it a compliment. I love natural remedies, dark color palettes, and made bewitchingly delicious baked goods, so I'd learned to lean into the bruja image. Everyone needed a personal brand. As for the baseball cap, it's not like I wore it as a fashion accessory. I worked in food service, and my family were sticklers for hygiene. It was either a cap or a hairnet, which thanks but no thanks. My weight gain, however, was a sore topic. Bad enough that I'd been eating my feelings and couldn't fit into my old clothes anymore. I didn't need them and their fat phobic comments rubbing it in. Then again, I hadn't been home in almost 3 years. The recovering Catholic in me recognized that these barbs were just the beginning of the penance they would make me pay. I waved my hand dismissively. Ay, Ninang April, I'm just adjusting to being back home. You know everybody eats well when Tita Rosie is around. The calendar crew all nodded as they helped themselves to the coconut jam and kisang pute I'd added to the table. Why do you think we come here all the time? The decor? Ninang May asked, gesturing around at the scuffed tables, mismatched silverware, and appliances from the 80s. Nobody cooks better than your Tita Rosie. A loud ha was the response to Ninang May's comment. We all turned toward the source of this rudeness, and my stomach clenched as I locked eyes with the only man I hated as much as my ex-fiance, Derek Winter. Derek sipped at a travel cup of coffee and tapped his foot in a cartoonish show of impatience. Hey, can I get a table already? My godmothers all clicked their tongues in unison and began whispering furiously in Tagalog as I approached him. I thought I made it very clear you weren't welcome here. His eyes crinkled in amusement, something I used to find so attractive, but his charms were wasted on me now. Now, Lila, is that any way to treat a customer? The man behind him asked. My eyes snapped to the newcomer. I hadn't realized Derek was dining with the guest. He'd always eaten alone before. Supposedly, dining solo made it easier for him to focus on the food so he could write his reviews. I figured he just didn't have any friends. And even more surprising than the idea of someone willingly spending time with Derek was his companion. What was Derek doing with our landlord? Mr. Long? What are you doing here? What, a man can't have brunch with his son? He clapped Derek on the shoulder, who flinched. I've owned this plaza for a while now, but I've never tried your aunt's cooking. You missed another payment. So, after seeing some of Derek's reviews, I figured I'd come see what the problem was. See if I could offer any assistance. I narrowed my eyes at Derek. The problem, huh? And since when were these two related? You'd think he would have told me his mom had remarried when we first saw each other again, but I guess this was just another of his little omissions. Derek met my glare with a smirk and gestured toward his favorite table near the window. Honestly, how is it even possible to have a favorite table at a restaurant you allegedly despised? Of course, make yourselves comfortable. I smiled sweetly and added, but no outside food or drinks allowed. Derek rolled his eyes and started toward the door, but Mr. Long intercepted him. Here, son, why don't you finish your drink and I'll put the thermos in the car? I gotta call your mom real quick, so go ahead and order for me. I don't know what any of this food is anyway. I waited till Derek gulped down his drink and handed over the travel cup before hurrying to the kitchen to talk to my aunt and grandmother. Those two coming here together, especially after our latest warning about being behind on rent again, could only mean one thing for us: trouble.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. I have today the talented Miss Mia. And by the way, I love your voice. That is so captivating. Hi, Madame. How are you today?
Again, I got my big mug of coffee, so I'm getting by. Thanks.
The fact that we're talking about a restaurant and you're drinking coffee, absolutely perfect. It goes with us. Welcome to the show. I am so happy you're joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It is truly a pleasure. And we're going to jump right in because it's all about this book. It's your debut novel. I am excited for you. I love the beginning of this book, all about romantic comedy and cliches, and then it spins. Where does the story come from? Tell us.
So, Arsenic and Adobo is my debut novel, as you said, and it's considered a culinary cozy. And for those who don't know what a cozy is, it's a subgenre of mystery. To make it really simple, I like to call it like the hallmark of murder mysteries, right? So, like, even though there's dead bodies, there's no graphic or on the page sex, violence, or what people would consider bad language. A lot of the contemporary ones I've been reading lately, I noticed that the protagonist followed a lot of like rom com cliches, right? Because it's always a woman. She's from a small town. She left to the big city to try and like make something of herself. For some reason, she couldn't hack it. Maybe it's a failed relationship, business gone bad. Her family really needs her. So she has to return to her small town, save her family's business, fall in love, if not romantically, then at least like with the town and the townspeople and the relationship she didn't realize she had, that kind of thing. And I noticed it like in rom-coms and in cozies. And so I was joking with like my mentor, Kelly Garrett, one day, and I was like, you know what? These cozies lately have just been rom-coms with dead bodies. The idea kind of stuck with me. And then one day, like I was riding the train to work, and the first line popped into my head, fully formed. Like that character name, I did not come up with it. It literally just popped into my head. My name is Lila Macapagal, and my life has become a rom-com cliche. And I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" Like I pulled out my phone. I was like, "I'm gonna write this in the notes because like this is a story idea." And then the second line came to me as I was typing it down, which was the not many romantic comedies have Asian American leads or dead bodies, but more on that later. And like with those two lines, I was like, "That's the story. Like that's how I'm gonna like dive into it."
I love it. It is such a fun combination of everything. I am hooked on cozies, which is surprising to most people because I do urban fantasy. But anytime I have some times like they're just fun, they're light. But
Yes.
if you can have characters that actually suck you in, it's exciting. And I like her sassiness about it. She's just like, I just don't have a good taste in men. I'm like, oh,
I mean, like relatable, right?
90% of the women can be like, yeah, we've been there. And about 80% of the men can be like, yeah, I picked that girl too. Tell us, this journey to publish your first book, it is absolutely thrilling. How are you taking it? Tell us about that.
In the writing world, I haven't been at it that long. Like I started writing seriously for publication back in 2015, but it definitely hasn't been like a straight road, shall we say. So this is my first novel that got picked up, but I had one before this that I'd actually finished before, like back in maybe what, 2017? Like, so that novel was queer Filipino American woman solving a murder mystery at a comic book convention. It won a couple of awards for like unpublished writers. I mentioned my mentor earlier. It was part of a program called Pitch Wars where I was mentored. It got me my first agent, but it didn't get any further than that. So like I was on submission for about a year and a half with that first book. And I made it to acquisitions several times. And for listeners who don't know what acquisitions are, like it doesn't end with you writing the book. You have to like revise the book. You have to get an agent. You have to find an editor who loves it. And then that editor has to sell it to what we call the acquisitions team, which is usually like the sales, where they look at, profits and losses and decide if you're a good investment or not. 3 times I made it to that last level. And then they were like, we can't sell this. So like the most common feedback I got was like, we love this. Your voice is really fun, but we can't sell it. It's too different. There wasn't like a comparison title that was like successful enough for them to like be willing to take it on. But during that time, I took people's advice. I wasn't just sitting twiddling my thumbs. I was writing the next thing, which thank goodness, because it became Arsenic and Adobo, which is now my debut novel. But even that wasn't straightforward because, I spent the time writing this book and I sent it to my first, I keep saying first agent for a reason. I sent it to my first agent and she didn't like it.
Why?
She was very honest with me, and I appreciate that because in this business, I need people who are going to be honest and transparent and fighting for me. And she said, like, I loved your first book, which I couldn't sell. This book I could easily sell, but I don't love it. And you deserve someone who does. Because we were also both at these like this weird limbo part of our careers. And she was like, this is already done. It's polished. I think you would do really well to query again because I don't think I can take you where you need to go. It was scary. Like you get this agent, like you're like, I did it. I'm done, right? Like it's gonna be super easy after this. Like, I'm sorry, people, it's not.
The road never ends and it continues to take turns.
Yeah, seriously. But I mean, but like obviously there was a happy ending here. So, when I did start to query again, I got interest very quickly, signed a new agent within 2 weeks, which is like really rare. And then she in turn was able to turn around and sell this book at auction in 2 weeks as well. So it was like, oh, okay. It was a lot of like, wait, and then there it is,
That is super exciting and very rare, but so perfect because your book is very captivating and it catches
Thank
very
you.
easily. So I love that. So when you decided to pick, this book came to you. Are you a naturally cozy fan or this is something that the book came and you're like, I'm going to play in this genre? How does that work?
So like I'm an overall mystery fan. So like, hence like my first novel is also mystery. I tend to lean more like traditional amateur sleuth, but I read a lot of cozies. My mom loves them and she's the one who got me into the genre. Like I started, reading it because I'm like, well, let's have something we can talk about, right? Because we don't have tons in common, but we do both love mystery. And like at the time I was like, I didn't realize that there were books that combined my love of food along with my love of like solving puzzles. We're both library workers, not librarians, but library workers. And she was like, oh, I was shelving books and I found this, she's a cookie baker, but she also solves mysteries. And I was like, ridiculous, but all right, let's read this together, mommy. And like they kind of started from there, like these ridiculous premises, but they could also be really fun. And as you said, like escapist and light and entertaining, despite there being dead bodies. They're also just like not super diverse, unfortunately, which is changing. There are a lot of really excellent diverse cozy writers here. So if you want, I could give some recommendations later. Like just like most authors of color, like I never really saw myself on the page. So I wanted to leave my mark, put my own spin on the genre.
I love your message and it's actually so accurate. And I know exactly what series you're talking about because I think I read half of her books as well. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They're fun and exciting, but it is definitely tailored to a very specifically demographic. And if you think about
Yes.
it, they weren't very diverse for a while. So I love what you're bringing to the table. So when you're thinking of diversity, did you have a target audience that you were hoping, hey, I would love for you to connect with this book?
again, to be honest, like I'm writing first and foremost for myself, right? Because like writing is so hard. There are zero guarantees. So if I'm not making myself happy with this, like it's a miserable slog for all that time, So I'm writing to make myself happy. I love that, like my mom's of the age where like she doesn't expect representation. She's just really happy when she sees it. So like I wanted to give her a chance to be like, oh my God, my favorite kind of books. And my daughter wrote it. It's with characters that look like us and it's our world. But of course, like again, the other Filipino readers or other people who are like me, who love cozy mystery. And I get really, really sad that it doesn't reflect the world that they know. And that makes it seem like, if they are in mysteries, they're usually the villains or the victims or, like they have the more negative stereotypes attached to them. And I didn't want that. I wanted a story where it's first and foremost a mystery and the people in it happen to be of color and it provides nuance to the character, right? It shapes how they see the world, it shapes how the world sees them, but it is not about the fact that she's Filipino, right? It's just a part of her identity, just like the rest of us, right? Like, I don't like wake up thinking about like, oh, my Filipino eyes, I'm gonna brush my Filipino hair and work my Filipino job. Like, it's just part of who I am, And that's what I wanted with this book as well.
You have brought the culture to an understanding that is natural without trying to
Hmm.
force it upon people, which I think that's the
Hmm.
part most people feel. How do I bring culture and diversity without being pushy and, in
Hmm.
your face? So I love that combination. And it is, and it's just a part of who the character is
Hmm.
without being the first thing you think about. And by the
Hmm.
way, your title is so much fun. I was like,
Thank
oh
you.
my God, you're coming up with ideas for books. Let's jump into it. So is this a series?
Yes. So Arsenic and Adobo is the first in the Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery Series. I currently have a 3-book deal with Berkeley. So book 2 is already with my editors and they've already approved the title and everything. So I can say that tentative release date February 2022. Book 2 is called Homicide and Halo Halo.
I like.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm currently writing book 3 now. So
You're a busy lady. What can we
yeah.
say? Are you interested in going into any other genres? Or are you planning to stay with cozy?
I definitely would. So, like, other subgenres in mystery, I would love to. Like I said, I love amateur sleuth. I love PI novels, like private detective kind of things. Like, I'm not really a procedural person. I prefer like more on the edge, like a regular person trying to figure it out. Before the pandemic, I wasn't a huge romance reader. Like, I wasn't against the genre in any way, but I personally am not a romantic person. Like my poor husband. But I don't know. Last year, I just really needed some happiness and there's like so much diverse romance out there. The BIPOC romance I say has been like saving my mental health. So like a good friend who's been trying to get me to read romance with her, like finally pushed on like one of her favorite authors, like Alyssa Cole on me, and like I fell in love. And like for the past year or so, I've been reading more romance than any other genre. Honestly, before I started getting to mystery, I always thought I'd be a kidlit writer. I work in these services at the library now. I understand the impact that books have on young minds and how important it is to be able to see yourself, especially as a kid. So I don't know if I'm ready for it yet. Like I haven't mastered like that voice quite really, but like I would love someday like a middle grade fantasy or something like that as well. So I have lots of plans, but those are like once Mia has leveled up. Right now, I'm still very new to this. I want to work on my craft where I am and before I expand a
I love the fact that you said before me it levels up. I'm like, oh, that's so perfect. That is
bit.
so accurate. You have such an interesting background because you're working in a library. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're working seeing people with books every day. How does it feel to see your book in the library? And is it in the library already?
It's going to be. So I've been working at the library for a short time. Before that, I was an English language instructor, but I've always been working like educating, like literacy and things like that. And my new coworkers have been very, very supportive when they found out a book was coming out. Obviously, they were so excited. The adult services librarian was just like, "Oh my God, okay, we're gonna order this book and we're gonna set up this event." And she's like, "I'm so excited for you." And yeah, I don't know. Like I think it's still a little unreal to me. Like, even though there are early versions out there and I've seen people with it like on Instagram and tagging me and I'm hearing all these good things, I don't know what it's going to be like to just walk into work and then see my book there or go to like a bookstore and be like, oh my God, I did that. That was me. That's me. I'm in that weird stage where everything is overwhelming, but nothing feels real yet. But like
It
overwhelming
hasn't
in a
sunk in.
good way. Yeah, it hasn't sunk in exactly. It sounds so cheesy, but I'm like, how many people are really ready for like their dream to actually come true? Like I wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. It's been 5, 6 years now that I've been trying to do this, and now it's just like, oh, it's happening. Like, are you for real?
It's a strange bubble when it transitions from we're thinking about it to it's happening. So I
Hmm.
completely understand that moment. And it's going to be weird next week when you actually have this book in your hand and other people do too. And you're going, it happened. This actually happened.
Yeah.
You have such a fun perspective because you're getting ready to transition from we're talking about it to I have a published book. What
Hmm.
advice would you give somebody who's starting out?
Build a community. Writing is often very lonely and difficult and long. And, to be honest, the publishing industry is very opaque. You don't know what you don't know. And it can also be really crushing because, like, as I said, rejection doesn't stop. Even though I have a book deal now, I've been getting rejected left and right on some other side projects I have, shall we say, but I can't talk onto. And I like what kept me going, before I had that contract was like the people that I had in my life. So I have been heavily involved in the mystery writing community since I want to say like 2016. So when I said I started writing in 2015, it was for a very specific reason. So I had taught abroad for almost 4 years. I was living and working in South Korea for a while, and when I came home, I was like back at home with my family, doing the same thing I was doing before. I was 29 years old, and I was like, "Is this it? Like, is that like?" It's just this forever. And then I remembered how much I loved writing. And I had never taken a creative writing class before because those are expensive. But I thought, you know what? I need something. I need to shake this up somehow. So I literally just Googled like Chicago writing workshop. And I found a 1 day mystery writing workshop. It was affordable for me. And I was like, okay, like I said, I never planned on writing mystery despite me loving it. But I was like, I like mystery. I can afford this. Let's give it a shot. And the teacher of that course, Lori Rader Day, when she saw like what I came up with in the class, she was like, "Have you done this before?" And I was like, "No, it's my first time." And she's like, "I think you're a mystery writer." And she's like, I think you need to continue this. And at the time, she was the president of the Mystery Writers of America Midwest chapter. And she was like, "Hey, I'm part of this organization. All the meetings are free. You should come join us. I think you would have a lot to learn. Like networking, especially, even before you have a book deal, is really important." And she was right. Because of, I had so many opportunities because I joined these writing communities early. So like the Mystery Writers of America and Sisters in Crime, the people have been so supportive. They've taught me so much. I made so many connections. The Pitch Wars community, that mentorship program I'm part of, my main critique partners are from that program. I was in that program in 2017. It's 4 years later. They're still some of my, closest writing friends. We still cheer each other on. We get so excited. I don't know where I would be without the community. I probably never would have even finished that first book, to be honest. You need them to give you that push along the way.
That is an awesome advice. And I think most people feel that I will build a community once I have the book instead of thinking about it
Hmm.
the other way. Because you just put it into perspective. You have a group of people that would cheer you on to get you to the first book. So
Hmm.
that is beautiful.
Yeah, and debuting is super scary. So like, I'm lucky. I'm part of like I told you I'm really big on communities. So my publisher is Berkeley, and I'm part of a group with other Berkeley 2021, 2022 debuts. We all have like a Discord and we chat like every day. Some of them are like me where they've been around for a while, and some of them are brand new. They literally have never met any other writers before. They kind of scared and lost because they have no idea what to expect. And then they're like, I don't know what I would have done if I had never found this group. And I wonder about that because, again, it's so scary when nobody is part of that same world because you have no one to vent about. Like my outside friends who are not writers, bless them, they're super supportive. But if I say something industry related to them, they're like, "Oh, that is good, bad?" Question mark. I'm sorry. Like it doesn't really mean something to them. They care because I care, but they don't get it. And finding other people who get it really helps with the stress and the mental health. And it's so much more fun because if I tell someone I got a starred review from Publishers Weekly, they're like, "1 star, that's it?" And like, no, a star is a big deal. Like you can only get that one star. It's one star or nothing. And they're like, "Oh, congrats." But I say that to a writer and they're like screaming with me. Having people on that journey with you is so important.
And for all of our listeners who are trying to figure it out, what does that mean? It does. It is, you're not alone in this bubble. You're not alone
Mhm.
in this village, and it makes the journey so much more exciting. And we're
Mhm.
not as many as people think, writing as a whole. There's a whole bunch of writers, but our community is actually very small. So I love it. Tell me, what do you do to keep motivated?
Oof, yeah. Everyone jokes about like book 2 syndrome, which is like book 2 is so much harder to write than the first. Like you'd think, "Oh, I did it, so I can do it again." No, because the pressure is there. With book 1, you have all the time in the world because you don't have deadlines yet. Book 2, you're writing on a deadline and you want it to be, as good if not better than book 1, and you have all these other expectations. And then I had to write it during, in 2020, which was not the best time. I guess again, what kept me motivated was my friends in the writing community and then also early reader responses. Like so, you asked like who am I writing for? Again, I started out only writing for me, but seeing people getting so excited, they're like, "Oh my god, arsenic and adobo! Oh my god, look at this cover! Is that a Filipino protagonist?" The excitement that other like Filipino and Filipino diasporas have, like just from like seeing the concept of a book starring people like them and their excitement over it. I was just like, "Oh my god, I've got to do better every time because like it means something to other people. It's bigger than me now, which seems like silly because again, like I say this in every podcast. Sorry if people, I am not the representative of Filipino American voices, right? We are not a monolith. There are so many perspectives. I can only speak for myself. The problem is there is so little out there that people, they put all their expectations like, oh my God, there's like five. So all five of them have to be exactly what I want. And when it doesn't match up, it can be a little disappointing. We're there and there's going to be more of us eventually. I'm just hoping that it also, other Filipino American writers see it and they're like, oh, so I can write my own experience. I can put people who look like me in my own stories. That means a lot to me. That kind of keeps me going.
Beautiful motivation, and I love it. It is true. Sometimes you feel more pressure from your first project once you're getting ready to do the second, because people are like,
Hmm.
oh, wait, you liked it? Oh, wait, you want what? More? Oh, God. So, yes,
Right? I
I
mean, good
understand.
problem to have, but at the same time, pressure is pressure is pressure, right?
Yes. And somebody told me, it's like, pressure, makes diamonds. I'm like, yes, and it busts pipes. So let's be honest about it. It's still pressure. I'm with you. I don't know which way it goes. Like, yeah, I don't know about that. So
Right.
I absolutely so excited for you. You officially have a cozy. So I'm like, comes out next week. Me and Amazon on first name basis. So absolutely getting this. So tell me, darling, where can we get you? Where can we find information about you? Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, sure. So my website, it's just my full name, www.miapmanansala.com. And on social media, you can find me Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, mostly Twitter and Instagram, at MPM the writer.
Awesome. Awesome. It's been so much fun and such a pleasure. But we're going to switch gears before you leave us for the day. And we're
Mhm.
jumping to our lightning round. Are you ready?
Ooh, okay, let's do it.
Easy peasy. Don't think too much about it. Let's see how much fun we can have. Ready?
Okay.
Pepsi or Coke?
Oh, Coke. Yeah.
I like that look. It's like, oh, I got this. Oh, good.
Mhm.
Sweet or sour?
Mm, I'm gonna go sweet.
You had to think about it, but it's okay. We'll let you
Mhm.
go. DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Okay. You didn't have to think about that one. So
DC women, Marvel in general.
I like that. That is actually really fun. Here's a little different one. So let's see how you do with that. If you had an animated character that best described your personality, who would it be?
An animated character. Ooh, that is interesting. I'm gonna have to come back to that. I'm like, there's so many things like flashing through my head now. I'm trying to think. There might be. I mean, I don't know. Does like a video game character count? Like,
Yeah,
like
it'll count.
my favorite video game is a Japanese RPG called Persona 4, and like I would say like maybe It sounds like they're opposites, but it's a mishmash of these two characters, Yukio and Chie, because Chie is very much a tryhard. She has such good intentions, and she's like very motivated by protecting those who are important to her, but in a way that can sometimes be overwhelming. Because she cares so much. I'm the oldest child in an immigrant family, so like I was the mother to my younger brothers, and like that like mothering instinct to always like look out for and take care of people can be really strong. And and sometimes it's like, I'm a grown adult, Mia, like, chill. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, but like I just that urge to take care of people and protect them and make sure they're okay can be really strong sometimes. So
You officially described my life, so I can completely relate with you. We're in the same boat, oldest child of a Dominican family. I'm with you, sweetie.
mhm.
So here's your last question. Let's see how you do. If you had a warning label, what would it be?
Ooh, very likely something about sarcasm. It's like approach with caution, but she's like never really serious, so you'll be okay.
I like.
Yeah. Or like looks intimidating, but really she's a softie. Like I'm kind of a big girl, I got kind of like resting like RBF, my face. I'm very sarcastic sounding. This is just the way I sound, by the way, people. Like I'm being genuine. I just really sound sarcastic all the time. But I'm a softie inside, honestly.
Oh, that's a great combination. Madame, it's been such a pleasure to have you. Do you have any closing comments for us?
No, just, thank you so much for having me. I really hope you check out my debut, Arsenic and Adobo. It's something that's very close to my heart. It's something that I've wanted to see on the shelves for a long time. And if nothing else, I hope it gives you a few hours of escape and a few good laughs because we all need laughter these days.
Congratulations again on the book. By the way, cover is amazing. So, listeners, you need to go pick this up. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure and many, many blessings. And to all of our listeners, give this episode a like, give us a shout, join our community, and we will see you next week with another exciting author. Bye, guys.
Bye.